Welcome back, everyone, to the League Dynasty podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Crazy Carl.
What up?
I'm Hippo TV, and we are back to cover the next couple rounds here. Got
Yeah.
we've made it through the first 10 rounds, and so we're just gonna dive right back in. Do you want to take us off tonight with the first
Yeah.
11th round?
Let's do that. We're gonna get all the way to 15 to the end of the 15th tonight, so that we can. That'll give us a good idea for people's full roster plus key depth pieces, and that's enough for us to do a ranking podcast on the next one. I think 15 through 25 is a bit. Uh, they're those deep throws that I don't think we need
Yeah.
to comment much about, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of upside players. There's a lot of rookies, and there's a lot of hot topic players. So very divisive, and we'll probably touch on one of those or two of those.
Yeah. You mean DJ Chark?
Yep, I've got my notes ready.
Yep. The fourth pass catcher on that team. Let's
We'll
do
see.
it. So, starting with the 11th round, we've got Ronald Jones, Anthony Miller, Joe Flacco, Devin Singletary,
Oh, wait.
Andy Dalton, Miko Hardman, Dallas Goddard, JJ Arcega-Whiteside, Alshon Jeffrey, Curtis Samuel, Marquise Brown, and Sterling Shepard.
All right. Uh, we're finally seeing that Andy Dalton love. I mean, right here, this is and Joe Flacco. This is kind of where we're talking. Hey, the QB week teams in our first podcast. This is where you start. You want to like target the Andy Daltons and the Joe Flaccos. So it's good to see that Power Mark took our advice there.
Yeah, and it's I only really took Joe Flacco on this draft because I wanted to put together that QB3 with Drew Lock. Otherwise, I don't think I would even have taken him on this round. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, but yeah, I think it's about. I mean, you just look at the board, and it's about the right time, right? I mean, those are all the starting quarterbacks up until you get to Eli Manning on the 18th.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, nobody wants none of Eli.
Yeah.
Um, what else jumps out to you in this round?
So there's a couple of players that jump out as really solid picks here. I really like Curtis Samuel here. I think that that's a really good pickup. If I personally didn't take JJ Arcega Whiteside, Samuel was one of the people that I was looking at. I think that for a player that's very similar to DJ Moore, you're getting a lot of great value in these drafts here. And I think potentially he could even surpass DJ Moore. I think this is his time to shine. This is his, I believe, his junior year in the NFL, and I think he's already shining in preseason. I know that everyone does, but I think that this is the year that he could potentially step up, and I really like that pick right there.
I do too. I mean, I like Curtis Samuel a lot. I think between him and DJ Moore, who I picked many rounds earlier, he is the better value of the two. Now, I don't think he's gonna end up being a better fantasy player than DJ Moore, but at the 11th round, it's such a good value.
Mm-hmm.
I was definitely going to pick him 2 picks later if he had been on the board. Instead, I picked Sterling Shepard. So I was a bit bummed that I got sniped there by El Conley on the 11-10. And then I got it sniped again by Carter with Marquise Brown on the 11-11. So between those two and you picking Arcega Whiteside, almost all the guys on my watch list for that round came off the board. So I was stuck with Sterling Shepard, who I do think is going to be one of the main pass catchers in that team between him and Golden Tate and Evan Ingram.
Mm-hmm.
If the Giants can put together anything close to a competent offense this year, then Sterling Shepard is gonna hold some value now that OBJ is gone. He had some pretty decent value as a wide receiver 3 last year already. So
Mhm.
I see that as his floor, and grabbing him in the 11th as a depth piece for a flex position is not bad.
Yeah, I'm still a little bit nervous, a little bit out on Sterling Shepard myself. I'm kind of curious to see how Golden Tate shines there. We've seen him do really good in the Lions as well as in Seattle. But my concern here is, we saw him last year in the Eagles. I know that was a midseason trade, and it's almost impossible to pick up an offense during those late trades like that. Um, I think it'll be interesting to see him once he has that full off season under his belt in this system. Another player that I definitely want to keep an eye on in the New York Giants is Darius Slayton. See how he kind of fits into there.
Sure.
Is he going to eat into some of those targets to Sterling Shepard or to the Golden Tate role as well? It'll be interesting to see how that pans out, and also it'll be interesting to see who the QB is. There's already talks that Daniel Jones could be starting off right off the bat, so we don't know what the targets are going to even look like. They could they could be from the young rookie, or they could be from the questionable veteran.
I think no matter who is throwing the passes, we're going to see a lot of passes to like check down and passes to the slot. So I think, Golden Tate's probably going to see a decent amount of value no matter what. And he did go a round later. For me, the decision between the two really came down to age. Golden Tate's 5 years older than Sterling
Mm-hmm.
Shepard, and I think Sterling Shepard has plenty of game left in his career. So um, besides that, though, what other picks are you a fan of or not a fan of in this round?
I'm interested in the Dallas Goddard pick. I think that's a smart pick. I think, with an aging Zach Ertz, I think Dallas Goddard is the youth. He is the future of the tight end position in Philly. I think that was a smart pick, especially for building a team that's going to be that dynasty team. Whether that translates to a lot of numbers this year is to be seen. I mean, this is his sophomore year, so it'll be interesting to see how he steps up there. Usually, it takes 3 years on average for a tight end to really get into the groove, to get into his own. So we'll see if he can do it in his sophomore year. So that's another thing that's interesting. I think the Mecole Hardman also stands out to me a little bit. I know that there's a lot of fears about Tyreek Hill, and there's opportunities to be had. I feel like personally, I think that Mecole Hardman's a little raw. I know that he's the speedster that he's got the same build and whatnot as Tyreek Hill. He's got very similar measurables when he came into the league, meaning Tyreek Hill.
Hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see. I think though that you are going to be getting a raw, unrefined rookie there, and that's going to be where it'll be interesting to see if he can pick it up, if he can actually hit the ground running. Um, what goes on over there?
Yeah, I think it's a disservice to Tyreek Hill to try to, replace him with an unrefined rookie like Mecole Hardman. I think people are not giving Tyreek Hill enough credit for the type of route running ability and his skills with his hands.
Mm-hmm.
I think people forget how many incredible catches Tyreek Hill came down with last year, even at his low stature. He has got that speed that Miko Hardman does not have, but that's not the only thing that he doesn't have. He also doesn't have the route running and the skills that Tyreek Hill has.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of Dallas Goddard, the one thing that, first of all, I agree with you. I think he is the future of the tight end position there in Philly. I think Philly's going to always have um, two tight ends sort of lined up no matter what, whether or not they choose to keep Ertz after the end of his contract or not. Um, the thing that I always remember about Dallas Goddard is that during the 2018 draft, Philly actually moved up on the draft one pick ahead of the Dallas
Yeah.
Cowboys, who wanted to pick up Dallas Goddard, and it was just seemed like such a troll move for them to move one spot ahead of the Cowboys to pick up their boy Dallas Goddard. Um,
Of course. They got to do it. Yeah.
it's so brilliant. He did the same thing to the Texans this year when they moved up to grab, oh God, what's the name of the guy? The linesman that they essentially, which to this day I believe, you know how the Texans GM got fired. What's his name?
Oh,
Uh,
drawing a blank here. Let me.
Chris Olsen is the
Yeah,
interim.
he's the interim right now. Not Brian Gain, right?
Brian
Yeah.
Gain, right? So I was reading about this, and really what it came, because this guy was only hired like a year and a half ago,
Mm-hmm.
and almost his whole purpose for being was to fix that offensive lineman for Deshaun Watson, right?
Mm-hmm.
And here comes the Houston Texans are coming up on their pick. They got their guy, and here comes the again the Eagles. And I've been drawing a blank on the name of this guy, so I'm googling it right now. The Eagles
Mm-hmm.
draft class 2019, and they pick up yeah, it was Andre Dillard, right? So they move up one spot ahead of the Texans to pick up Andre Dillard, and then the Texans are left with just this guy who's oh, I forget his name too, but it's just like such a level down from Dillard
Mm-hmm.
that that was it. That was the straw that broke the camel's back, and one of the reasons why the GM was fired was he was given a year and a half to fix the offensive line, and that troll job that the Eagles did with the Texans right there was the end of it. So
Mm-hmm.
I just love giving the Eagles some credit where it's due for their brilliant type of maneuvering during the draft, during the free agents signings that they do. I think they do a better job than just about any team in the NFL when it comes to um, putting together a roster
Mm-hmm.
in all these different ways. But anyway, I know we're talking too long on the 11th. What's up on the 12th?
Well, one thing I do want to say before the 12th is just really fast. Ronald Jones was taken at the 11-1. Personally, I'm not a Ronald Jones fan, but I think for where it's going, it's an okay place to take a shot on him.
Yes, I agree.
So let's hop into the 12th round. We've got Golden Tate going at the 12:01. Damian Harris, followed by Deontay Johnson. Then we got Marquez Valdez Scantling, Jerick McKinnon, Mason Rudolph, Latavius Murray, James Washington, Donta Foreman, Dede, also known as Day Day Westbrook, and Jalen Samuels and Marvin Jones. And for those who don't know who Day Day Westbrook is yet, you will after a future podcast, hopefully.
Yeah, the pod dudes tend to mispronounce Didi's name. Um, so yeah, as I said, the it was between the two Giants receivers there for me at the turn. I mean, Sterling Shepard and Golden Tate, and Shepard was I made the decision based on age. Um, what jumps out to you in this round?
Mm-hmm. So I think one thing that I like here, or there's a few things I like here. I like the Jalen Samuels pickup. I also like the Dede Westbrook and Marvin Jones. I think those are good. James Washington, the value here was solid. I think that's
Great.
probably one of the most, if not the most solid picks right in this round here. I think he's got a good opportunity. This would, if I was someone weak at wide receiver, I would start hitting up Power Mark or El Conley. I would say, hey, what would it take to buy James Washington or Curtis Samuel? I tried to hit up El Conley this morning, and I was like, hey, I'll give you. I gave him an offer. I'm not going to say what it was, but he said he's pretty high on Curtis Samuel, so I know that it would
Should be.
yeah, it would take a significant amount to buy him. The other thing that I like here is, personally, as a homer pick, I feel like Jerick McKinnon is still the one if he can get healthy. So I think that was a steal at this pick as well.
So I agree on the wide receivers. I disagree on the running back. I guess it really depends for me whether you're on win now mode or not. I
Mm-hmm.
believe Park Adams has a solid, win now team. And
Mm-hmm.
by picking up Latavius Murray, if I had been in search of a running back that round or the round before, I
Mm-hmm.
would have picked up Latavius Murray. I think he's got so much potential as that playing that Mark Ingram role in the
Mm-hmm.
Saints. Um, and even if you give Alvin Kamara a little bit more of that share of the carries, there's still a lot left that Ingram did. I think people forget that the year before Kamara's breakout, well, actually during the year of Kamara's breakout, Ingram and Kamara were both,
Mm-hmm.
flirting with RB1
Yeah.
value. So they were sort of back to back in terms of results. And if Latavius Murray can do just some of what Mark Ingram did with the share that was given to him,
Mm-hmm.
that is a great value at the 12th round, especially for somebody who's trying to win now.
Yeah.
He's
And
uh he's older, but he's somebody who I've been targeting in a lot of drafts, and somebody who I was hoping would drop one round later, but unfortunately he didn't.
mm-hmm.
So
I think there's some talk, however, that Divine Zigbo could be the potential true backup for Kamara. I'm not sure how much
mhm.
faith I put into that, but it is a rumor mill that is going around, so it's good to be aware of that potentially. So El Conley did pick that up uh, in the 21st round.
Yeah, yeah, somebody who you should, keep an eye on. And I think it's similar to the situation in the Rams where people don't really know who's
Mm-hmm.
the backup and who's going to be the complementary back, right? I think you've got a better idea that Latavius Murray is going to play that Mark Ingram role.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Whereas in the Rams, you kind of don't know who's the true backup to Todd Gurley, right? And whether Darrell Henderson is going to be
Mm-hmm.
that playing that Alvin Kamara role,
Yeah.
um, that complementary role, right? Sort of like Gurley playing the Ingram role and Darrell Henderson playing the Kamara role.
Yeah.
Um, I happen to believe that Malcolm Brown is the backup in case Gurley gets hurt, but I think Darrell Henderson holds more standalone value.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who's probably going to get the ball no matter what. With Malcolm Brown being the person who's going to step in case Gurley gets hurt.
Yeah, and kind of tapping into what we were saying earlier, at this point, we are at the point with running backs where you're either taking the backups or you're taking some upsides to a questionable backfield,
Hmm.
or you're taking the next man up kind of thing.
Uh,
So
yeah,
it
that's
really
right.
kind of you're taking shots at the dark. You're taking your best guess. You're hoping for the best. I
Well,
mean,
that's true for every running back taken this round. I mean, Damian Harris is probably is a question mark in that
mhm,
backfield in New England. Jerick McKinnon is in about as crowded of a running back core as you can get in the NFL right now. And now there's talk that both the Steelers and the Texans may be going to a running back by committee. So
mhm,
Deonta Foreman at the 12-9 and Jalen Samuels with a 12-11 are both
mhm.
solid picks that may have standalone value, not just as handcuffs.
Yeah.
So
So I'm gonna treat you like a magic eight ball right now. Donta Foreman, is he ready for the season at the start of the season? Is he going to be able to play game one?
yeah, I think this is his season. I think people forget and have kind of fallen asleep on how not generational back or anything like that, but
Mm-hmm.
Donta Foreman was a solid back coming into the NFL and it was almost the game in which he was breaking out
Mm-hmm.
to become it. And I think people could like see the Lamar Miller losing the starting role. That exact game was a game that Deonta Foreman hurt his Achilles, and it wasn't a touchdown play if I remember correctly. He like burned dudes, ran into the end zone and fell into the end zone with only one Achilles attached,
Hmm.
unfortunately. And now by now he's gonna by the time the season starts he's gonna have had almost 2 years to recover from this. It's a tough injury to recover from, especially for running backs, but
Hmm.
he's young. And I think you got to have two things for an injury like this, right? You got to have the age to recover from it, and then you
Hmm.
have to have the team give you the time to recover from it. And I think has been given the time, and he certainly has the age. So I am all in on Deonta, not just becoming a part of that committee, but ultimately becoming the first in that committee.
Hmm. Yeah, I think though that one thing you got to be mindful of is running backs that tear their Achilles are never as good as they were, and it seems like they never get that same caliber that they did have previously. So that is something to keep in mind. I'd be
Sure.
concerned about that.
I think
Uh,
that's true for every athlete that has this injury.
mm-hmm. Yep.
It's a killer.
Yeah. Um, I think the other thing that you mentioned a little bit too, as well, is yeah, Pittsburgh is murky at best. I personally don't believe that James Conner will stay the one for the foreseeable future. If I was Seacole, I'd look at trying to mitigate some of that risk either by finding some more backups to potentially plug in or offloading.
Right.
So let's hop into the next round with starting with Trey Boo Boo.
Trey Boo Boo. Um, Trey Boo Boo at the 1301, followed by Geronimo Allison, Hakeem Butler, Andy Isabella. Interesting that they went back to back.
Mm,
Interesting that Butler went first. That's what I tend to believe, but
yeah.
in most of these drafts that I've been seeing, it's the other way around. Mark Andrews, Deshaun Hamilton, Kalen Balaj, Duke Johnson, Austin Eckler, Mike Gesicki, Dante Moncrief, and with the 13-12, Alexander Madison.
Hmm. Yeah. So there's quite a few interesting and good picks here. I really love that Hakeem Butler. I think there was, at the time of that pick, there was like 4 or 5 of us that were screaming, saying, "No, oh, I was gonna pick that."
Everybody wanted him, yeah.
Yeah, I think when I was staring down Jerick McKinnon at the time, I knew that Jerick wouldn't come back to me, and I really did want Butler, but uh, you know, having
You kind of knew that neither one was going to come back to you.
exactly, so I had to take my pick there.
Yeah.
But I really like Butler. I think that his height's going to be that real advantage. Um, I see him kind of like that Mike Williams role where he's just plodding into the end zone and just tall man winning, you know. But
Yeah.
he's got the skills, he's got the athleticism. I was talking to a lot of people, based on tape and everything, and going into the NFL draft. I had Hakeem Butler right behind N'Keal Harry.
Hmm.
I had him that high, and I think skill wise alone, that that's where I had him. And even though he got taken in the 4th round, I don't. I personally say ability over draft position. Ability is always going to win out. So I think that he really will be successful there.
Yeah, I tend to agree that talent rises to the top, and that draft capital is important because it's basically dictates how much the team is going to how much leeway the team is going to give somebody and how much based on that investment. um, but Hakeem Butler I do see as having a more prototypical like wide receiver one type of talent for that team rather than Isabella or Christian Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think, maybe not this year, but looking into the future, Butler is somebody who I look at as being, somebody who's going to be doing great things there with
Mm-hmm.
Kyler Murray for years to come.
I'm actually gonna say I'm gonna step out and I'm gonna say he's gonna be productive this year. I think that with his height and the way that Murray plays, I think that Murray's going to do some dump offs up to him and rely on him winning those 50-50 balls. I think that he's going to be one of those safety nets for Murray to avoid injury. So I definitely
There
see
you
him
go.
as being productive right away.
Well, how much of a product are you talking about? Flex, wide receiver
I'm going to
three
say
type of?
easily a wide receiver 3.
Okay, I could see that happening.
Yeah.
I could definitely see that happening. I think that's his ceiling. I don't think you're gonna see him having some kind of breakout
Mm-hmm.
year, a la Calvin Ridley. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that's a little bit too far of a stretch, not just for him, but for Kyler Murray as well. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think you're gonna see, some of the projections I've seen for Kyler Murray are so optimistic. It's just like
Yeah.
I don't think he's gonna have 4,000 passing yards this year. Like I just think you're gonna see him really use his speed and his creativity, to his advantage. But
I actually think the opposite. I think he's going to be dumping it off a lot more, and he's not going to be taking those running risks. I mean, he's 5'10", and he doesn't have that luxury of being able to take a lot of hits with that kind of body type. I think he is going to be trying to get rid of that ball pretty fast.
But I think we both agree that he's smart as to when to take those risks. Though
Exactly. Yeah.
he's the kind of guy that knows when to dump off the ball and even just throw it away rather than take the hit. I think that's a testament to his size and what he knows he's not able to
Mm-hmm.
handle,
Yeah.
especially in the NFL. So,
Yeah.
what's your take here on that? Well, first of all, I'm not a big fan of the Trey Boo Boo pick
Mm-hmm.
with the rest of the tight ends that were on the board at that time.
Yeah.
I think as somebody who's been a Trey Burton owner for the previous 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
you could not have been a happy owner last year with the draft investment that was spent on him year before, of all the hype of coming into the Matt Nagy system as the quote unquote Kelsey of the team.
Mm-hmm.
And I think his season was basically salvaged by at the mercy of Matt Nagy hating Jordan Howard
Mm-hmm.
and essentially giving him goal line carries that never should have existed. Otherwise, you're looking at somebody who gets 3 targets a game
Mm-hmm.
at most, and unless and then he has a sports hernia surgery over the off season, I think you're really kind of as your and I believe that's his
That's
tight
his
end one.
first. Yeah.
No, actually that's not his first. We're wrong about that. That's his second. So that's fine to me. I mean, I think you're still at that point. You have better tight ends on the board that you can use as
Oh,
your.
yeah, you're right.
So, for example, myself, I would have gone with Mark Andrews
Mm-hmm.
or Mike
I would
Gesicki
have
or
gone.
somebody like that.
Yeah, I would have gone Mike Gesicki. I know he had a crummy year last year, but he's fresh coming in. He's the only one on his team that's not really. Everyone else on the Miami Dolphins tight end wise is a blocking tight end. Mike Gesicki is the only one that's really gonna have that ability to be that pass catching tight end. His blocking ability was a little subpar last year. I know that he put on some weight in the offseason, so it'll be interesting to see, how he steps up this year. I think that this sophomore year he can step up, but I really think it's going to be his junior year where he's really making that big splash. I think that he'll get involved, but until Josh Rosen or Ryan Fitzpatrick figure things out, it'll be interesting. But I do think that for check down passes for Josh Rosen, if he is put in there, Mike Gesicki is going to be his guy.
Yeah, I think I see Mike Gesicki as in the same frame, the type of player as I see Noah Fant.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who's more of a needs more work on the blocking, but is already a pretty accomplished pass catcher, that just wasn't utilized the right way at all under
Mm-hmm.
Adam Gase. So I mean I could actually see a breakout year for Mike Gesicki
Yeah.
this year. So I agree with you 100%. I just happen to have a little bit more not faith, because I don't know that faith is the right word, but I look at Mark Andrews as somebody that can be a bigger return on my investment.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, the point being is that even if you're looking for a backup tight end, I wouldn't have gone with Trey Burton right there.
Yeah.
So not a big fan of that pick. But that's all right. At that point, you really are talking about back end tight ends.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, anything else in that round that jumps out to you?
Yeah, this is where we're kind of hitting on those backups. You got the Austin Eckler, which makes sense. It's a good pick because he's got the Melvin Gordon, and Melvin Gordon has been historically injured a lot lately.
Hmm.
I think that's a good insurance policy. I think at the 13th round you can take those kinds of insurance policies. So I don't hate the pick. The other pick, Alexander Madison, I think that's a good one as well. I'm
Great
trying to
pick.
see if he does not have Dalvin Cook, so that'll be an interesting one. I think if Dalvin Cook can stay healthy, Alexander Madison will probably pop in a few times to kind of give him a breather and whatnot. But if he goes down again, hey, it's next man up, and he's looking pretty solid with a
So
13th
my
round pick.
question, so on the backup, this is all talking about handcuffs now, right? So
Mm-hmm.
first of all, I don't see Eckler as the handcuff to Melvin Gordon anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I see Justin Jackson as the handcuff to Melvin Gordon now. Um, in that sense, who has Raquel Armstead? It's Conley, right?
Yep.
Um, Maybe they can work out a deal here in a sense that Cartwalla really needs Raquel Armstead,
Mm-hmm.
and instead he has the handcuff for Dalvin Cook. He's another guy who,
Mm-hmm.
like, whoever the Dalvin Cook owner really needs to have Madison.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the Dalvin Cook owner here?
Dalvin Cook owner is Theo
Theo.
James. Now,
So if I'm Theo Jeans and I'm Cartwalla, I'm really trying to make something happen with like a three-way trade or something to
mm-hmm.
that extent where everybody's happy, and at the end of the day, both of them end up with their handcuffs in some way.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an ideal situation here. I'm not a big fan of having handcuffs of other players.
Mm-hmm.
They tend to just kind of burn bench spots. And no, we do have a deep bench, so it's not the end of the world, but um, that's something to keep in mind here.
I think, though, one thing to consider is athletically and play style, Alexander Madison is significantly better. I think Reichwell is more of a plotting running back. He's going to. I would say I've heard comps to Isaiah Crowell. I hate throwing that out there, but I've heard that used for Reichwell, and that scares me.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you at all that Madsen is a more skilled back
Mm-hmm.
than Armstead. And I don't think it should be one for one by any
Mm-hmm.
means.
Yeah, you're gonna have
But
to.
right. You're gonna have to throw something in. The Armstead owner is gonna have to throw something else in
Mm-hmm.
to make that happen. And then even then, it's gonna have to be a three-way trade anyway.
Yeah, like you can maybe do a Reichwell and Djax,
Yeah,
and then Alexander Madison, and then throw in maybe that Dallas Goddard. That might be an option. Although I'd hate to throw that away because that's his. I believe that's his only his tight end one right there.
yeah. He
So
made it up by basically picking two more tight ends in the following six rounds, and Ian
mm-hmm.
Thomas and Elise Mack, but he just essentially has all youth in the tight end position,
Yeah.
and Theo's really going to struggle with getting any points on a consistent basis out of the tight end position
Yeah.
this year, I believe.
And I don't think I'm seeing anything that I really, really would want if I was Cartwell off of his team, other than maybe a Kiki Cootie or a Mike Williams. But I don't think Theo Jeans is going to part with
Go for
that.
it.
So you're going to probably have to give up some Devy picks if you want to make a three-way
That's
going
right.
that way.
But I do think it's important to try to. I mean, there's a reason why. Me personally, I like to secure my handcuffs. So
Hmm.
for Mixon and Mack, I went with Giovanni Bernard and Spencer Ware, and I actually picked up Travion Williams as well, just in case. Now Anderson had already been picked by the time that I got that far. Otherwise, I might have picked him up as well with as deep of a bench as we have. But when we're talking about young um, handcuffs like this, they can always. I mean, you look at uh, championship teams, championship rosters.
Hmm.
You're always gonna find these types of deep sleeper running backs
Hmm.
that kind of broke out unexpectedly, either because the running back ahead of them got hurt, or because they were given the opportunity and beat that person out. So you're always looking to kind of find those guys. That's why I take a shot at Damien Harris on the 12th.
Hmm.
Um, Guys that really could, given the circumstances, win the whole thing for you.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's
so
kind of why. So I took Duke Johnson right here. I feel like that was a steal right
sure.
here, because Duke Johnson, we're a year separated from when he was a RB1. He was a pass catching stud in Cleveland.
Hmm.
I don't see him being on Cleveland past this year.
I
So
agree.
if someone picks him up, he has the option to be potentially an RB1 somewhere else. And he's only 25 years old. So for me, it was a no brainer there. I felt like I just ran away with the prize right there.
Yeah, you know that you've got to back up for the first 8 weeks at the very least, and then
Hmm.
you have somebody that's gonna give you some future value. And no matter where he goes, he's gonna be a valuable asset.
Yeah.
No, I think we all agree that we think that it would be. We spoke about this a couple episodes ago about how it would be brilliant for him to get traded to the Bucks,
Hmm.
right? So, but I don't think that's gonna happen, unfortunately.
Hmm.
So otherwise, you'd be jumping for joy.
Yeah, I would go crazy just kissing everybody that I see, cheering. Um,
What do you think about the Kalen Balaj pick?
I am not a fan of Kalen Balaj. I've been lowering on him consistently this year, especially with reviewing like film from last year.
Hmm.
Uh, the funny part is, he's a bigger guy, but apparently his skill set is in the pass catching realm,
Just
which,
it's just awkward, right?
yeah, it's weird. But I mean, we saw the film. You saw the film where he's getting off the line and he's getting hit by the first defender and he's going down pretty much right away. Whereas Kalen
Right.
Balaj is juking and dipping and diving past every single person
You mean
almost.
Kenny and Drake,
Who did I say?
Kalen Balaj. It's
Yeah,
fine. You just
Kenyon
repeated
Drake.
his name, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think that his um I don't know. I don't think this is good value on the
Hmm.
13 with the other guys that were around him,
Hmm.
including people like backups like I mean, you have people like Matt Breida and Carlos
Exactly.
Hyde, Austin Eckler, Duke Johnson
Hmm.
still on the board. Um, so
Yeah.
just not a big fan of that pick. But aside
Exactly.
from that, I think that's I do like the Dante Moncrief pick on 13-11. I think the hype is
I
real.
I don't. I think he's gonna be there for 1 year and then he's gonna find another team. I think he's gonna probably be on one more team after Pittsburgh, and then his career's gonna be done. I think he's fool's gold.
Yeah, but at this point in the draft, in terms
Yeah.
of wide receivers, I mean, I picked up, going into the 14th, I picked up Devin Funchess,
Hmm.
and I would have picked Devin Funchess on top of Dante Moncrief, but
Hmm.
I think this year, at the very least, I could see it. I could see a season in which Dante Moncrief has uh, produces more than Funchess does.
Hmm.
I believe they're
Definitely.
similar age, right? They're Funchess is 25 and Moncrief is 25 as well, I believe. Yeah, they're both
Yeah.
25. I just happen to believe in the Colts offense more than I believe in Pittsburgh offense. I think Pittsburgh is prime for production regression in production this year.
Here's a
So,
question for you: would you rather go for Dante Moncrief or Devontae Parker?
oh man, that's like a total, would you rather go for the shot in the sky or, solid floor? It really depends on my roster,
Yeah.
right? If I already have those types of upside, players that are going to give me that ability to hit a home run, then I'm definitely going with Moncrief. But if I haven't, then I've been picking up Devontae Parker everywhere I can just for the possibility that this is his year, right? And that it's fine that he's just been getting screwed by the previous administration there. And but what I've done as well is because of the hype is I've been able to take Devontae Parker and trade him at like really inflated value in some of the other leagues that I'm in. So personally, I'd probably take Devontae Parker just because of what I've been able to do in other leagues with him. I don't see anybody sort of going out of their way to grab Dante Moncrief from my hands. Um, maybe with some of this hype that's been coming out lately of him, of him possibly being the 2 there after Juju, which I don't personally believe. I mean, I don't need to buy into the hype of him being the 2 there to believe that he's a decent pickup in this draft and this round. I think even if he's not the 2, he's probably going to have some return here as a 13th rounder.
I think he's the.
So
I think he's the 3. I think they're gonna have him in there, but they might start mixing in Deontay Johnson a little bit. I think it's gonna be the Juju and James Washington show, and they'll start working in Deontay Johnson, see what he's got.
well, and they have James Conner. I mean, they're a team that passes to the running back a lot, and James Conner did quite well catching passes last year.
Yeah.
So it's not, and I do, and if you believe in that this is the season of the Vance dance, then you're really looking at Moncrief being the 4th, 5th option in that team.
And that makes him obsolete.
I mean, worthless, right? So you really have to kind of, I say that he's a valuable pick with the possibility that he can be the 2 or 3 in that team. But I mean, you could very well see a world in which he holds very little to no value at the end of the season. So it's I guess I could see it both ways. Whereas Devontae Parker's the same way. I just think his ceiling is so much higher.
Yeah. So let's hop into the 14th round. So we've got Devin Funchess, Matt Breida, Jordan Howard, Traquan Smith, Terry McLaurin, Ito Smith, Carlos Hyde, Jay Sternberger, Vance McDonald, Jared Cook, Chris Herndon, and Devontae Parker. Where do you want to start with this?
Well, look at all these tight ends, man.
Yeah.
This is the tight end run that began here the round before, and they just kept going.
I don't have anything I hate other than the Ito Smith. I don't foresee him bringing you much value.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's pretty much the only pick in this round that I'm kind of about.
Yeah, I think Jordan Howard too. I think he'll probably get goal line work, but that's probably the extent. That and chewing up the clock.
Well, I think if you believe what is saying, really look, the value is there. He will begin the year as the 1 in Philly. I don't think he will end the year as the 1 in Philly. But if you're looking to get some early wins in the season, then Jordan Howard is probably somebody they can throw on the flex and get some solid production. Whereas, see, the problem I have with Ito Smith, he just looked like crap last year. He was given an opportunity, and I mean, Theo, I feel like really hurt himself in these I just after that Dallas Goedert pick. I just am not a fan of what Theo did on the 12th, 13th, 4th, and 15th. over here. With the Mason Rudolph, Kalen Ballage, Ito Smith, and Ian Thomas.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm kind
I
of
think
wondering if he got tilted a little bit maybe from some of these picks. I know that he made a comment. He said he hated drafting behind me.
maybe you were sniping. You were sniping him on the 14th, on the 12th, on the 14th, and on the 16th. So there's always that guy that snipes you, right? And if he happens to be that guy that snipes you right before your pick, then yeah, the tilt is real, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to get into his head, and I think we'll, we were just talking today about how we're gonna let folks kind of come on the pod and let us know what's been in their mind or what was in their mind during the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Theo, I'll ask you right now, what was in your mind between the 12th and sort of 15th round?
I'm gonna say all the way to the 17th.
Well, I liked his Benny Snell pick on the 16th.
Okay. Yeah, I'll give him that.
But yeah, I mean, at 17th, it's well, I've already commented how he's on the tight end front. He's very weak and is gonna have to do something if he wants to be competitive this year. And that was a 17th round.
I would have taken a Dawson Knox right there in the 17th personally. At least you get someone that potentially could start. I mean, via injury, of course, but still.
Yeah. I mean, some of these sort of long shot tight ends that we're talking about, like Josh Oliver, Elise Mack, Dawson Knox, Darren Waller. Definitely, El Conley has been listening to some of the same podcasts that we have been. If he's bought into the Darren Waller hype in Oakland, I do think he's probably ends up being the tight end one there.
Yeah.
You really kind of depends of what news you've been listening to or reading and what podcasts you've been listening to. I think pushes you one way or another on some of sort of these deep tight end picks.
Exactly.
But in general, the 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th, Theo, you will answer for these.
You gotta explain yourself, man. Yeah. So nothing else really stood out to me. I know that Carlos Hyde is aging, so that's something to keep an eye on. But I think he's still got some gas in that tank.
Well, is he the? No, he's not.
Yeah,
see, I've seen a lot of Damian Williams owners picking up Carlos Hyde as insurance and as just in case. Again, not a fan of picking up handcuffs for other people. Unless you're going to just try to extort him for it, which I've already heard is happening in our league.
Oh, man.
And, I guess it is what it is. Not my style, but some people will succumb to your extortion, so, extort away.
Yep.
But no, the rest of the picks went kind of as expected. I think the order is about right. I probably would have picked Vance earlier. But kind of depending on who, see, he picked it up as the backup to George Kittle, so I don't have a problem with that. It was fine for him to wait. If I could see somebody who's just waited a long time for the tight end picking up Vance earlier just to secure him, and then picking some youth behind him.
Yeah.
But as a backup, I'm fine with it.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that pretty much. I guess the one thing I would like to make mention of is the reason I picked Terry McLaurin over Kelvin Harmon is he went to school with Dwayne Haskins. Yes. They've got that rapport. Yeah. I believe that rapport is going to carry on into the NFL. So
yeah, I definitely don't disagree with that. I think seen this type of stuff in the past. They have that. It was actually why I was hoping the Broncos were going to pick up Emmanuel Hall with their 7th round pick in the draft this year. They decided to go with a local guy from CU instead, just because of that chemistry he has with Drew Lock. And I believe in it. I believe you can't buy that kind of stuff, and if you're talking about a couple rookies, very valuable, and you're looking at Dwayne Haskins starting a lot sooner than Drew Lock. So this is a good pick, man.
Yeah. All right. You want to read the next one off?
Yeah. Well, the tight end run continues with Austin Hooper, Herb Smith Jr., We got Dion Lewis, Jamison Crowder, Jack Doyle, Antonio Callaway, Ian Thomas, T.J. Yeldon, Will Greer, Raquel Armstead, LaShawn McCoy, Jordan Reed.
To me,
That
this is where,
finishes us.
yeah, to me, this is where it starts getting into that gross territory. This is where we're starting to take those shots. This is why, like, at this point, we kind of said, hey, at this point, everyone's taking a lot of these random shots. I mean, in the 18th, you got the Josh Gordon pick.
Yes. Why not?
Exactly, and you're taking Larry Fitzgerald, who probably only has a year left, like that kind of thing. You're taking your shots on these, these potential upsides.
I like the Larry Fitzgerald pick, especially on
Oh
the
yeah,
17th. Like
I
that's a
think that's a
solid 1 year valley, man.
yeah, and I see Cole. I have him ranked as a potential win now. I'm not going to say where I have him ranked yet because obviously we want to do a rankings episode.
Yes.
But he's one of the contenders. So I really like that pick. The Dion Lewis pick, I don't know. I don't know if they're gonna go back to Dion Lewis or not.
I think he's gonna get very, very little of the ball this year, man. Considering what they've decided after the second half of the year last year.
Yeah. And that's where you could have taken a stab at Raquel Armstead, or you could have taken a stab at Shady. I think Shady would have been a way better pick here. Personally.
Yeah, I've been taking Shady late and a lot of because of the same thing as John's, just not a similar age, but I could see a team trading for him and him becoming than he will be in Buffalo, in that crowded backfield of his. So
yeah, I could see Shady doing a short deal and potentially in Tampa. I think that would be a fun one too.
Yeah, those are the two guys that I see as trade targets is Duke and Shady. Just obviously for different reasons. Duke would be somebody that they'd want to invest long term in. If they didn't think that Ron John was the real deal, right? And Shady is more as if you do think Ron John is the real deal, but just needs more time, you just got to get off this Peyton Barber train, man. It's just ugly.
Yeah, I actually liked that Peyton Barber pick at the 17th. I think that was a smart pick right there. I was actually going to grab him myself.
Sure. Again, late picks, might as well, know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I like this Irv Smith pick here. I think that was a smart one. I think that it sucks, really, really sucks that the deal with Kyle Rudolph went down. And you can see here that the talent is obviously showing with Irv Smith being picked before Kyle Rudolph. I find it funny because, yeah, it's true. I think Irv Smith could win out the role. But now they just they shot their wad on Kyle Rudolph. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Well, the thing that I read about the Kyle Rudolph, and it's actually the reason why, look at I had my 15-5 right there, right? And I had a decision to make. I already had Noah Fant in my team, and I want to give myself.
Hands.
What's up?
You took the baby hands.
Right, and so I had the decision to make. I want insurance for if Noah Fant takes at least a year or two to get up to the level that I think he should be at. So I'm looking at either Jack Doyle, Jordan Reed, Kyle Rudolph, and Delaney Walker. Right, so those are the four guys that I was looking at as as players that I know would bring me production this year and the next, right? So a couple of things kind of wave me off of each player, right? Delaney Walker, I just the fact that they're going to be such a strong run heavy team wave me off of him.
He's injured all the time. He's getting older.
Right. Well, these are all old guys, right? Yeah. So then you've got Jordan Reed, who's like, if I'm getting an insurance.
Delaney Walker's 34 compared to Jack Doyle's 29.
True. You're right. I mean, just they're not young. So so if I'm looking for insurance, Jordan Reed is great because when he plays, he's fine, but he's hurt half the season all the time. So that's not a great insurance for me. And so then at the end, it became between Jack Doyle and Kyle Rudolph for me. And I read deeper into that Kyle Rudolph deal, and it's deceiving, right? It says that it's a 4-year deal, but they do have an option next year to let him go, and at a significantly lower cap hit, right? So this looks to me like what they did was they kind of placated him, gave him a lot of upfront money, right? And put together this deal in a way that they could very well see what they have in Irv Smith this year and release Kyle Rudolph next year. Okay, so I've been actually reading and listening to a lot of guys who think it's done deal, and Kyle Rudolph will not wear a Vikings jersey come next year, right? And if that's what I'm looking at, then I'm definitely going to end up picking somebody again. I picked both Devin Funches and Jack Doyle just because I'm such a big fan of Andrew Luck and what that team has been doing. That I think, in terms of an insurance, as long as he can get over the injury that he sustained last year, then he should be somebody that's going to produce decent value for me on a weekly basis. Not elite, not anything that that's going to win me a week on just any week, but it's also not going to lose me a week either, right? But that's kind of the level that you're dealing with at right there. Everybody has something that dings them,
Yeah, and sorry. I think this is it's where it's getting a little tight. It's interesting. I like the Jameson Crowder pickup. I think that's interesting there. I'm not sold on Antonio Callaway. I think he's got a lot of growing up to do. I think he's got a lot of growing to do in general. I do want to kind of tap on that first pick on the next round, though, because I think that was a steal. I think Zay Jones is really going to step up next year, and I think that'll be interesting to watch.
Well, how much time do we have before we hit an hour?
We have 4 minutes, so we could even dive into our what we teased at a little bit.
No, I think we can. What I think we can do is looking at these next rounds, because I don't think we're ever going to talk about these next rounds very much.
Yeah.
There, especially in these next few rounds, there are probably a couple picks that we can at least highlight, right? I wanted to highlight both the Zay Jones and the Jalen Hurd pick in that round. I actually moved up to 16-11 to pick up Albert Wilson just because I just did not think at all he was going to be back at the 17-10 for me. And I am a total Arbor Wilson truther right now. I mean, I don't know if you've looked at his Matt Harmon's reception perception, but Albert Wilson's chart is just all green.
Yeah.
And he is just solid, right?
I'm kind of interested to see him and Preston Williams. I think that'll be an interesting combo.
Right. And I gave up a lot too. I think I gave up like a lot of my picks. I think I gave up 4 picks to move up and grab Albert Wilson.
Wow.
At that point, I'm just looking for, that's to me is a big drop off after that, right? Then we're talking about, your Robert Fosters and DJ Charks, right?
Oh, I love. Are you ready to dive into the DJ Chark?
I'm picking on you on purpose. So why don't you? Because Hippo, I've joked with you that the only reason you pick up DJ Chark in every single one of these leagues that we're in is because you have this shark as your logo and you just want to play the role. But I know you think there's something there, so why don't you bring out your stat sheet and tell me what is there?
All right, so DJ Chark, let's kind of dive into him a little bit. So I want to just let's preface with let's start with his combine. So DJ Chark's super athletic person. He ran a 4.3440, which is pretty good, right? Wouldn't you concur? 40.
Wait, what did you say it was again?
4.34.
Sure, lightning speed.
Yeah, he did a 40 vertical, and
Okay.
and 129-inch broad jump, which translates to 10 feet 9 inches.
Okay. So he did very well on his combine.
Yeah, so it shows his athleticism. I also want to tap into his senior year in college. Just kind of going back a little bit, he's only been in the NFL for 1 year. Wide receivers are very similar to tight ends, I believe, where they really step up their second and third years. His receiving average in his senior year, what do you think that is? How many yards per reception?
9.5.
His, I'm going to tell you it's higher. I'll give you one more guess.
14.
It's higher. It's 21.9 yards per catch.
Wow. And how much of that is after catch?
I believe that is, that I can't. Is there a
So
way
is
to
he
find
somebody
that?
that produces after the catch, or is he just a deep runner that catches the
He
ball
is
and
a
then gets down?
speedy runner. He was dealing with Blake Bortles last year, who made his players run after the ball rather than targeting them correctly.
Sure.
So he's moving in.
Not gonna argue
He's
with
in
that.
a system right now where Nick Foles is actually going to be able to accurately and deeply throw the ball to the speedster.
Gotcha.
The other thing that is interesting about him is the last 5 games he missed. He was out 5 weeks due to injury. That's usually when the players start shining, if they're gonna start shining in their rookie years. So we did miss that. I feel like
So you think? I mean, so let's look at the depth chart really quick, and then we can
Yeah.
finish off this episode up. Considering, let's assume that Leonard Fournette is going to catch a lot of passes this year, and then you have
that's a big assumption.
sure, but with Foles running the run pass option as he probably will be, it's a fine assumption to make, and I think why Leonard Fournette has why I think Leonard Fournette has a lot of value this year, as long as he can get over his own head and his injury history.
And the coach has to start liking him.
That's true. I think the owner is going to push that a little bit. But anyway, you got Leonard Fournette, you got Dede Westbrook, you got Chris Conley and Keelan Cole.
Yeah.
Who is he beating out in that list to become valuable? Because if he doesn't, I don't see how he is valuable.
I think the only person that he's going to have any contest with is going to be Dede Westbrook. The rest he's going to beat out easily this year. And that's
Okay.
You can take that to the bank.
Well, if he's the wide receiver 2 in that offense that I believe will be much better than last year, then I agree with you. I think he will have value. But then you're really having to disrespect Keelan Cole quite a bit, which I'm not ready to do. But hey, we brilliant minds can disagree sometimes, right?
Yeah, I mean, Keelan Cole lasted all the way to the 25th round. There's got to be a reason there. If you look
The
at
injury, man, that's what I'm chalking it up to.
Yeah, I personally think that with the speedster ability, with the accurate QB, I think he's going to kind of be that, I hate to use this, but he's going to kind of be that Tyreek Hill for the Jaguars. I think he's he's going to be that speedster, that downfield stretch person. I mean,
now
is that not ridiculous?
Now they just need a Pat Mahomes.
Exactly. So just going back to his college year, his 2016 year, he was 17.9 yards average receptions.
That's ridiculous.
So I think he's really got that capability. I think it'll be really interesting to see where he goes this year. And that's kind of what you're going for. You're going for these upside players at this round, and I think for a third,
I didn't even mention Marquise Lee. I'm like, who am I missing here?
I don't know. I'm not
another injury guy.
I'm not a fan of Lee personally, but that's just me.
I'm not a big fan either, but it's just somebody else he has to beat.
You mentioned Matt Harmon.
Right.
And he ranks Marquise Lee like in all reds.
Oh yeah, I'm not a big fan of him. I just consider somebody else that has already a history in the team that he's gonna have
Yeah.
to beat. But
Oh,
I
he'll
do
beat him.
agree that talent rises.
Yeah.
If he is that talented, then just there you go, league. The Hippo did not pick the shark just to be cute. Okay, he's got a plan.
Yeah. Sometimes they're crazy plans, but sometimes they work. I think for the upside at where he is, and I recommend this too. If you're in a league that you still haven't drafted this year, trade that 2019 rookie third round pick for DJ Chark. I guarantee people are gonna say, "Ah, he hasn't done anything for me. You can have him."
Well, then why not trade the fourth rounder then?
Yeah, if you can do that, go for it. But what I've done is I've thrown threes. I've thrown my third rounds at people, and I've gotten them every time. No haggling, nothing.
Okay.
Just straight up.
Well, there you go. Hippo's hot take of the day.
Yep. All right, you got any last?
An hour now.
We are. Yeah, you got any last words for everybody?
No, next episode we'll we'll reveal our rankings or your rankings, and I will just tell you whether or not how closely I agree with them. And I know you guys have been waiting for that, and we'll bring that to you by popular demand. So, and then we've got our rankings from the Pod Dudes scheduled for this Sunday, which is June 29th, 2019. That's going to be released by 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11 o'clock Eastern. Did I say? What did I say?
You said the 29th. That's Saturday.
Yeah, the 30th. Sorry, the 30th. And these guys are pretty good. They do a good job of breaking. They do this all the time, so they will probably be a little bit less biased than we will. Yeah. As hard as we try not to be. So be on the lookout for that and some more entertaining material.
Yep, and the next pod, on top of rankings, we're going to kind of talk about your weak areas a little bit, where you might want to tighten up your team potentially, and then maybe we'll talk some trade opportunities, throw some ideas out. I think if we do start getting people on the show, it'd be interesting to try to get someone to do a trade while they're on the show and send that out to someone, right?
Oh, ballsy. I like that.
We'll put them on the spot.
I'm looking forward to, I'm definitely looking forward to spot. A couple have their talking points ready for some of the comments that we have made in these last couple episodes, and we'll continue to make in the next few. So if you're either intrigued or upset about something we said, go ahead and mark it down and get your answers ready, and we'd love to hear them.
Yeah,
and why we're wrong.
Bring the stats like I did for DJ Chark. Show us what you got. Bring the links. Bring anything you got, and we'll take a look at it. And we'll we're entitled to our opinions, but we'd love to hear yours as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
Good times, Hippo.
Yep, as always. So we'll see you guys next time. Have a great day or evening. Later.
Adios.